Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Brainwash the Book series. Today, I have a special guest over here. It was amazing to just talk a couple of minutes before we jump into to this interview, and we had really meaningful conversation about money and like how people are brainwashed about money. So this episode is going to be we're gonna be diving into this type of topics because it's really brilliant when it comes to investments and all of that area when it comes to investments, money, portfolios, all the Wall Street, what we hear, and so on. So let's dive in, and I'm super happy to have him here. Welcome to the show, Ryan Lee.
Let's go, Adam. Hey, it's so good to be on with you, your community, your listeners. I love the topic. I love the idea of brainwashed to be broke. Let's smash that brainwashing today and help people go from being broke to being rich. Because being rich, all it really means is you have more options in your life, more control over your time, and money is just a tool. So I can't wait to talk about that today with you, Adam.
Amazing. So let's dive right to that topic. So when it comes to money, what it actually like being a financial free means to you, like compared to what we are taught from our young age.
Yeah. I think this is a phenomenal topic. I think we have grown up in a world for the last 100 years, give or take, where the concept of retirement is relatively new. I mean, Adam, if you really think about it, in the history of humanity, it was pretty much work until you die, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
recently, in the last 100 years, humans have been living longer. They are able to make enough money to provide for their needs, and then maybe with if they're smart, have a little bit left over. And this is where the concept of retirement has come from. Wall Street has, kind of swooped in ever since about 1981, and they have brainwashed and really ingrained people with the idea that if you want to retire one day, which is the biggest dangerous word that people have in their vocabulary, is one
Yeah.
day. You go to work, you get a job, you put your money in Wall Street, whether it's a mutual fund, stocks, brokerage accounts, you name it. You just give your money to someone else. And one day, magically, when you're 65, you'll have this mystical amount of money. Everyone thinks, what is enough? And they hope that they'll be able to retire one day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you go out and talk to friends, family, coworkers, neighbors, you realize there is a massive disconnect, a massive crisis with the ability to be able to retire, but yet we're still told to do the exact same thing. And so for me, money's greatest intrinsic value, what financial freedom actually means, it's to buy your life back.
Yep.
Consider
Yep.
this, Adam. Every dollar that you have in your life right now, my life as well. I've traded my time for that dollar. So if I'm trading my time for those dollars or whatever currency you're using, then the objective of money is to buy my time back, buy my life back. No one says you have to wait until you're 65. I did it at 32. And so really what it comes down to is understanding how to convert money into time. That's financial freedom.
Yeah. So when it comes to money converting or time to converting to money or being able like being financial literate, what is it actually like, what do we have to understand to get to get out of the rat race?
Yeah, man. This was a hard one for me to learn because I kind of messed around with my life early on. I didn't graduate high school. When I got my life back together, it was really weird. As I look back on it, all of the social conditioning that I was brought up with, it just clicked in. When I decided to
Mm-hmm.
be a responsible human being, I knew responsible human beings, they go to school. So I went to school. After I went to school, you get a job. So I went and got a job. After you get a job, you save for retirement. And so I started doing that. And I remember, early on in my journey to becoming, a responsible person, I set a goal for myself. I want to retire early. I didn't like the corporate world. I didn't like climbing the corporate ladder. I didn't like the trade-offs required with it. And so I thought, if I work hard, save hard, and the market does what everyone tells me it
Yeah.
does,
Yep. Yep.
maybe I'll have enough money to retire when I'm 50. That was my goal. I wanted to retire early at the age of 50. And I remember 2008, that was my first wake up call. I'd been out of college for about almost 5 years. My net worth had just crested about $100,000. And I thought I was on track. I had, $100,000 between a brokerage account, a 401k, some mutual funds that I own, that kind of stuff. But I remember in 2008, two things happened. Number one, my accounts, they dropped like a rock. Everyone else's did too in the market, right? Everyone lost money in 2008. That was in the markets. And I realized I had no control over the outcome. I was trying to use a system that I had no control over. But here's the biggest awakening that I had, Adam. I was almost 5 years out of college, and I was modeling my financial plan and my life after people that were 30, 40 years ahead of me, right? The grown-ups, right? And I remember all these people in their 50s, they were crying, they were melting down, everything was falling apart because they realized they would never be able to retire. And I remember looking at those people, talking to those people. These were my coworkers. And I remember realizing I'm doing the same thing they're doing, but somehow I'm expecting a different outcome. I'm expecting that I'm going to retire in my 50s somehow. And I realized that was the definition of insanity. Once I understood that, I stopped giving my money away and I started investing in the one thing that no one wants you to do inside of our modern civilization. The schools don't teach it. Our parents usually don't teach it. Financial advisors don't teach it. But I started investing in my financial intelligence, in my education, in my understanding, to really understand.
Why do you think they do not want us to invest into that area?
I mean, flip it on its head. Why does anyone want you to do anything in business? There's a profit motive behind it. Wall Street's profit is don't be financially smart. Hand your money to them. And I don't know if you guys know this, anyone listening to this podcast right now, Wall Street makes money managing your money. Now, as soon as I send my money into Wall Street, they put my money in all kinds of different funds. But as soon as the money goes into a fund, does Wall Street have any control over what that fund is going to do? Zero. They have zero control. The funds are made up of other people's businesses. Wall Street has no control, but they make money whether I win, whether I lose, or whether I'm flat. Their profit motive is you be dumb, we're the professionals, you give us your money, we'll make money on you for the next 40 years, and maybe when you're 65, you'll have this unknown sum of money that will allow you to retire. It is a complete charade, a complete facade. But this is what we've been taught, and everyone, not everyone, but most people in humanity today, that's what they believe. They believe Wall Street is synonymous with investing when it's not.
Yep. Yeah. What? When it comes to what would be the one topic or one subject that you would want everybody understand when it comes to money and be able to manage your money, basically?
I love that. So here's what it comes down to for me, okay? It comes down to basically three financial intelligences, three financial IQs. IQ number one is you've got to figure out how to make money, right? You've got to figure out in our economy how to use your God-given skills, gifts, talents, and abilities, how to use those talents and services in the service of other people, how to solve problems, and how to exchange your services with other people for money. That's the economy. Now, I would say it's probably one of the most important things people can learn right now, simply because AI is coming in. How do you make yourself an obvious choice to have a position in an economy that is going to drastically change over the coming years? So making money is the first financial intelligence. You can never out invest your ability to make money. So make money, number one. But where most entrepreneurs, where most employees, where most people fail, is they never figure out the second financial IQ. How do I keep the money that I'm making? And Adam, I want you to consider this. You probably have listeners in lots of different countries, but I want you to consider the biggest destroyer of your wealth are taxes. And in the United States especially, the tax code is written And not as a series of rules, but as a series of incentives. It's written to tell you how to keep more of your money if you understand how the tax code is written. I mean, that code
Mm,
is 3,000 pages long. The
yeah.
first statement in it is everything you make is taxable, but the rest of the 3,000 pages is how you can keep more of your money. And so making money and keeping money, those are two different financial intelligences.
Right.
If you can just solve those two, making and keeping money, you're 80% of the way there. Then the last part is really understanding what investing is. And again, this goes back to the brainwashing that we all have. Most people think investing is giving their money to someone else, putting it in something they have no control over. What does that sound like? Does that sound like investing to you, or does that sound like gambling or speculating?
Yeah.
That's what
Totally.
most people are doing. Let me give you the definition of investing really quick. And Warren Buffett, arguably one of the greatest investors, he says it. I mean, how many people listening to this right now understand or recall what Warren Buffett's two rules of investing are? Number one, don't lose money. And number two, don't forget rule number one. That's what Warren Buffett says.
Yeah.
But here's the technical definition of investing. And when I give you this definition, Adam, and for anyone listening, think about where your money's at right now. If you have it quote unquote invested right now, think about if where your money's at aligns with this definition or not. So the definition of investing is parting with capital, right? Those are the dollars that you've traded your time for, parting with capital with the expectation of safety of principal, right? So I'm not going to lose money. That's number one. And then generating an adequate return in the form of interest, dividends, or rent. So think about all of the many places you could put your money, and primarily people put their money in the stock market. Is there any expectation of safety of principal? No, right?
No.
You could lose everything. Do you
Exactly.
get an adequate return in the form of interest, dividends, or rent? No. So most people are speculating, but they've been brainwashed to believe that they're investing. They're
Hmm.
gambling with their future, and that's why most people are stuck. So to achieve financial freedom, stop gambling and start increasing your financial intelligence.
This is super powerful. I love this because, you know, um, they all like when you go to, it's like I have my own opinion, like literally probably very similar to yours opinion when it comes to like going to, financial advisors, like I mean like bankers and so on. Like this is so stupid. Like those people are broker than you are, and you are going there to asking for advices.
Yeah.
That's pretty ridiculous to me, because I always like, when I study something or from somebody, the person has to achieve something that I want to achieve also, and based on the record, like based on the track that he actually did it, I'm going to listen his advices, right? So this is like the way that I'm wired. I think there are like, at least if you are a little bit smart, you actually do this type of thing, and like, being very careful who you are like who you are listening. But when I'm, for example, talking to even my close ones, like literally my friends or families, they don't understand this. They don't want to
No.
spend time to study anything, because that's how we've been brainwashed to literally, like, when you have degree or when you have everything, when you finish your studying, you basically are done. You don't have to study anything else, and just
Yeah.
like live the way that we set it up for you. So be dumb about everything else. Just be a good worker, and like be a good ship in a crowd, and like literally that's how you supposed to be and live your life. And to me it was always at the beginning, like when I finished my high school, it was like, this is not how I supposed to like live my life. This is
Mm.
crazy,
Totally. I agree
right?
with that 100%. I believe that there is a lot of social conditioning. And I don't believe most people in the system are bad people. I don't believe financial advisors are bad people.
Right.
They're doing the best that they know, but they've
Mhm.
also been brainwashed into a system. And I want you to consider this. The people who do know how the system
Mhm.
works, they're intentionally trying to keep financial education
Mhm.
out of the system, because the more financially educated people are, the more independent they are. And that's
Right.
really what it comes down to. Most people are dependent. I call it the dependency economy. They're dependent on their employer, they're dependent on the government, they're dependent on Wall Street, they're dependent
Mhm.
on everyone else, which means that's the opposite of freedom. Human
Yep.
beings are meant to be free. We fought for it for for all throughout history.
Yeah.
Today, the modern day freedom fight, our revolution, is one of owning our time. The majority of people trade self-imposed. They put themselves in a prison and they self-impose their prison sentence. They trade their entire life because they will never take ownership over their mind, over their financial education, which means they don't take ownership over their dollars, which means they don't take ownership over their time. So the number one step is what I call the ownership economy, getting out of the game. And if you want to be free, you have to own your money, you have to own your result, or you have to own your money, your decisions, and your results. And if you'll own those three things, you will learn more, become more free, and there is a system to be financially free in a fraction of the time.
So let's talk about financial statement. How important is financial statement? And because like this is the only thing that like this is the most important thing, and they do not teach it in any school anywhere. Like literally, it's just insanity for me. So let's talk about this and like let's help people realize how it all works, at least a little bit, because probably we would have to have like some type of presentation to actually understand it, like make them better to understand. But let's talk about that for a second.
Well, the first thing that you have to understand, and this is just finance 101, this is personal finance, this is personal budgeting. This is, again, why financial education is not perpetuated, because when you don't understand this, you become subject to banks, to credit cards, to interest rates, to taxes. But there's the statement of income, or the cash flow statement, right? Your inflows and your outflows, how much income is coming into your life and how much of that income is going back out of your life, income and expenses. And when you understand that, that's really where the intention needs to come. You control how much income you make. Now, sometimes it doesn't feel like you control it, right? You might be in a job where your boss is only willing to pay you, X dollars. But you also control if you're going to stay in that job, if you're going to get more education, if you're going to become more valuable, or if you're going to go out and become an entrepreneur, right? You control all of that. So if you want more income, take ownership, take control. But the second thing you have to control, and man, Adam, I have met with people that make seven figures, millionaires, and have nothing to show for it, right? They make money and it goes out of their economy just as fast as it comes in. So the second thing on that is income and expenses. And what I always prioritize is my future self. How do I ensure that the decisions I make today align with my future desire? For me, I started off with a intention to be financially free. At first, I wanted to retire early, but then once I read a couple of books, I realized I could do this in 10 years or less. I could invest in such a way where I could own my time in under 10 years. So that's always been my objective. So that means I've got to intentionally build in a surplus, a budget surplus, to where I have more income than expenses. And I take that excess money, my savings, and I then put it in my balance sheet. And my balance sheet is really just a statement of assets and liabilities. Most people have a balance sheet with all full of liabilities, but the wealthy, they take their income and they buy assets. And if I could boil everything down today, and this is kind of a loaded statement, so I'm going to give it to you and we can unpack it if you want. If you want just one statement to help you be financially free today, it's this: turn fake money into real assets. If you can get good at turning fake money into real assets, you'll be financially free. You'll win. Inflation will make you wealthy.
What do you mean by real assets?
Yeah. So a real asset in today's world is, number one, anything that delivers cash flow. If I have to sell the asset to get income, I don't own an asset. But if I own an asset that will rise in value, so there's demand for it to where it will rise in value, at the same time that it's rising in value, it will give me a stream of income. And at the same time that it will give me a stream of income, it's incentivized by our tax code. Therefore, I can generate my income either tax efficiently or tax free. Those three things will be the foundation of a real asset. It rises in value, it generates cash flow, it has tax advantages, and then the biggest component in today's world, and this is why I say fake money, our money isn't real anymore. Our money is an IOU, it's debt, right? And that's a really hard thing for people to understand. But think about this. When you go to a bank, the bank literally prints money. If I want to go get a car loan today, I take a car in,
It happened,
and the bank prints money.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting. It happened like in 1971 or three or something like that, right?
Yep.
When they took the gold standard from.
They took the dollar off the gold standard, President Nixon.
Yeah, there you go. Sorry
Yep.
for
You got it. That's it.
Yep.
And the rules changed. In 1971, the rules changed completely. And since 1971, we've all been living under this inflationary world. The cost of living goes up every single year because they're printing more money with nothing to stand behind it. So that's the world that we live in. So I don't want to hold fake dollars because the government is printing dollars every single day. It's making my dollars less valuable. So I want to convert a fake dollar into a real asset. And the real asset, again, goes up in value, generates cash flow, gives me tax advantages. And the fourth, and this is the power move, if I can leverage that asset, then I can tap in and start playing the same financial game that the banks are playing. So those are the four elements of a real asset.
Yeah, love it. You know, when we talk also about financial statement, I want to also like add to it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. To make financial statement work, there has to be always two or more, right? Because your expenses are for somebody else's assets.
Totally. You're 100% right. 100% right. And that comes down to whether you're buying liabilities or you're buying assets. Most people, they have not enough income, they have too much expenses, and a major part of those expenses transfer to their balance sheet, and it's full of liabilities, which are future streams of payments that they have to pay.
Right. So basically every person in the world has a financial statement. Literally every person.
Yes. I mean, if you've got $1, you've got a financial statement. You might not walk around and think about it as a financial statement, but how good you are at managing inflows and outflows and converting dollars into assets, not liabilities, those are your two financial statements.
Yeah. So when if somebody completely starting out with investing and like deep tapping into this into this area, what would be the best way to start investing into those real assets?
Yeah. For me, it came down to reading, right? You know, when I decided I was going to take control over my money, I had no idea what that meant. No idea. And everyone I talked to just said, go buy more stock, go buy more mutual funds, go figure out how to trade, options. That felt like gambling to me. And so I started reading books until I came across probably the number one book that has changed more minds than any other book. It's Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I love that book.
Yeah.
Now, here's what I'm going to recommend for your listeners, though. If your listeners are just starting off, if they haven't read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that's okay, right? I would pick up Robert Kiyosaki's book, Why the Rich Are Getting Richer. If you read or listen to that book, it is quite literally the exact playbook that tells you why the rich are getting richer. And the rich aren't getting richer because they're lucky, because they're greedy, because they're arrogant, because they've inherited money. The rich are getting richer because they understand money. They understand the rules of money in today's economy. And all they're doing is they're following those rules, which make them automatically rich, automatically wealthy. And so that's where I would start. Read Robert Kiyosaki's book, Why the Rich Are Getting Richer. And then if you're okay with it, Adam, I'm going to plug my book, right? Because I just partnered up with Robert Allen and Robert Kiyosaki. And it's a framework. It's a framework literally to apply what you learn in those books into a 10-year plan. It's called Retire in 10 Years or Less. And the thing I love about books, Adam, is you take someone's entire life and they put their entire life into a couple hundred pages. And it's better than a podcast because a podcast, you're getting little snippets. It's better than an article or a blog because, again, you're getting little snippets. It's definitely better than a social media post because those are super misleading.
Yeah.
And all of those things might point you in the right direction, but you've got to sit down and understand the entire playbook. And if you can understand the playbook, then you can start to operate like the rich do. And I promise you, Adam, this is what I learned. It's so easy to get rich today once you understand the rules of doing it. Because we've not been trained the rules, we do it the exact opposite way, and that's what makes most people stuck.
Yeah. So I think like now most of the people, most of the listeners would be like, okay, so how did you get financially free? Basically?
Yeah. So number one, I made a commitment. I'll be completely honest with you. Becoming financially free, it's not easy, but it's worth it. It's not easy, but it's worth it. Just like anything in life, anything that's worth it, it requires some work. It requires some intention. It requires some effort. Right, Adam? You're doing a podcast right now. and it's worth it to you because you're continuing to do it, but it's not like it becomes easy. It's hard to put yourself in front of
Oh
people.
yeah.
It's hard to open your life up. It's hard to do these things, but things that have meaning in life are worth it. So, number one, make a commitment, because if you're not committed, you're just going to drift. You're the next 10 years of your life will be exactly like the last 10 years of your life. And you'll wake up one day with the biggest regret of all. Why did I waste my life? Why? I have nothing to show for it. So, number one, get committed. Number two, the next thing that you have to do is you have to raise your financial education. For me, like I said, I did it in books. I read 3 books that changed my life. Book number 1, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Book number 2, Robert Allen's Creating Wealth. We updated that book, and that's this new one. So I would just say read Retire in 10 Years. You can read Robert Allen's original book, Creating Wealth. His book walked through a very simple formula. It's how you buy assets. And if you buy 2 assets a year for 10 years, you can generate 6 figures of tax-free income for life. So book number 1, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Book number 2, Creating Wealth or Retire in 10 Years. And book number 3, Become Your Own Banker. If you read those 3 books, you'll understand how to play the game of money. And once you understand how to play the game of money, it's then doing it. It didn't happen for me overnight, Adam. It took me time. It took me, as I started doing it, everyone said I was crazy. Like, why aren't you putting money in a 401k? Why are you doing this? Like, why are you doing all this stuff that seems risky? For me, the biggest risk was becoming the coworkers I observed in their 50s and 60s not having anything to show for the last 40 years of their life. That was the biggest risk for me. And so I was willing to do anything to get radically different results than that. And so those 3 books, they set me on a course. And that course, after about 4 or 5 years, I had enough momentum to walk away from my corporate job. And now I've been doing that same strategy for 15 years. And Adam, here's what I'm going to tell you over the last 15 years. And this is not to brag. This is literally to help you understand that when you align your money with the rules of money as they exist today, in 15 years, I've never lost money. In 15 years, I've got wealthier every single year. In 15 years, I've paid no taxes. In 15 years, I've built up more streams of cash flow than I need to cover my living expenses. In 15 years, you can accomplish anything in 15 years, but it starts off with the commitment, the playbook, and then the discipline to execute it.
This is awesome. Love it. Yeah, totally. And so are you actually investing into properties also and so on? Like, what is your main strategy right now, for example, for investing?
Yeah, man. This is it. So I covered in the book. This is, and it came from all 3 of those books I just gave you. So my first rule for investing is go make a lot of money. Go be as valuable as I can and make money. My second rule for investing is save no less than 20% of all I make. So make money, spend 80%, but save 20% of all I make. Step number 3, never lose money. So for me, I set up what's called an overfunded high cash value life insurance policy. I call it a vault. I can put as much money into these accounts as I want. It grows tax-free every single year. It gives me a guaranteed return. It's not correlated with the stock market. And then all of that extra cash, the reason it's called an overfunded policy, all of that extra cash, it becomes an open and a private line of credit. I then use that private line of credit. I leverage it. I go buy a simple single family home, cash flows. I take the cash flow and I use that to pay back the line of credit in my vault, in my policy, and I repeat the process.
Awesome.
Now,
Wow.
that's as simple as it is. And if you do those 2 things on the life insurance and on the real estate, you never ever pay taxes. That's how the tax code is written. It's written to tell you how to not pay taxes if you follow it. So I make money. I try to lower my taxes as much as I can on my active income. Once I've done that, I save at least 20% of what I make. I put it in a life insurance policy where I eliminate taxes. I then leverage the value of that policy to buy simple single family homes. And I take the profits of those single family homes and I pay off the vault line of credit, and I just repeat the process. And every time I repeat the process, Adam, it goes faster and faster and faster.
So amazing. Wow. Okay. This is really interesting. I'm already sold on that.
Let's
Because
go.
I love studying about real estate investing and all of that way how we can acquire wealth and especially assets, because if you think about it and you can see how what is happening inside around the world, basically people are jumping into businesses. They don't even have an idea what actually business look like or what even financial literacy is. And then how you mentioned before, they are ending up in in a worse, even in a worse place that they've been before, right? Because they have no clue what to do with those money, even though they make a bunch. It's the same way how people make, like, basically make win a lottery or whatever, right? They usually, how they can end up in a couple of years, or not even that, they just literally ending up in the same or even worse place. But the point that I want to bring in here is that I don't know if you started when you started, like, educating yourself about, like, have you tapped into actually an entrepreneurship, like business, building a business, or you just literally start, or like straight away investing into those portfolios, or the way that you explained it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in the beginning, I continued to work my corporate job for about 5 years, 4.5 years. So I
Yep.
worked my corporate job. I took as much money as I could from that corporate job and I put it into the life insurance policy. And then I bought 17 properties over about 5 years. Now, I want you to consider this, Adam. When you own that system, the life insurance and the real estate, that becomes a business in and of itself.
Okay.
So all of the tax advantages that are available to business owners are available to me because of what I'm doing, which
Ooh,
means that's why I pay no taxes, is I'm treating that system like a business. It's a passive business,
right,
but I'm treating it
right.
like a business. So that's where I built all of my wealth to walk away from my corporate job. I became financially free building that system.
Ooh, that's
Now,
beautiful. Yeah.
as I did that, I had a lot of people. I mean, and I've been doing this now for well over 10 years. I had a lot of people come and ask me, how did you do it? Can you show me how to do it too? And so for the last almost 12 years, I've been helping people run that exact same system with their own life. We've helped thousands of people. We've generated millions of dollars of cash flow. We've helped people buy over 4,000 single family homes over the last decade. It's been phenomenal. And so that's really, so now I have a business for active income. I still have my business for passive. I scaled my portfolio well past 17 because every time it works, it just generates more cash flow. And unless I'm ready to really retire and walk away completely, I just roll that cash flow right back into the system and it builds more cash flow and more cash flow and more
Ooh,
cash
yep,
flow.
yep. Yeah, because, like, when you see people who are starting a businesses, they don't have any clue how business actually works.
Yeah,
So they basically build themselves another job,
totally.
right? Instead of building a system that actually can be outsourceable. And yeah, so that was like the point that I wanted to bring with the previous, like, that's why I asked you for if you've been building a business or so, because, like, also Robert Kiyosaki is talking, like, you should, like, or advising to start a business because it's the is the, I don't know if it will be best way, but um it's probably provide the most lessons for your life and how you should actually, the education basically, because, like, when it comes to business, it's like it's a self, basically, discovery itself, right? The whole, like,
Totally.
business, building a business. um so do you, like, okay, so let's talk about debt. Do you use debt to acquire wealth also, or you
I
don't?
do. So that comes down to leverage. And here's the thing I want to say, okay? Debt is the most powerful and the most dangerous financial tool that we all have access to. Because most people are financially illiterate, they're not taught about money, about wealth, about capital. They use debt like a consumer, right? They
Mm-hmm.
essentially mortgage their future. They go buy a car today, and essentially they don't make the decision based on how much the car costs. They make the decision based on, can I afford the payment? So
Yep.
they mortgage the next 5, 6, 7 years of their life to pay the thing that they've already bought today. So most of times, debt traps people. That's not the type of debt I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm talking about is using leverage. And I want you to consider this, okay? This is why real estate and business, but real estate especially, is so powerful. If I want to go buy real estate, I don't actually need to have the money. I can go to a bank with a good property and a good enough down payment, and the bank will give me the rest of the capital to acquire
Mm-hmm.
that property.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the powerful part about that. That's leverage. If I buy a good property in a good neighborhood and I have good property management in place and a good value proposition, I'm going to rent the property to someone. They're going to pay for the privilege to live in that house. I'm going to then take that rent payment and I'm going to direct a portion of it back to the bank. So the rent is now paying the debt for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then in addition to it paying the debt for me, it's generating a surplus profit for me for having raised my financial IQ and
Yep.
taken the risk. And
Mm-hmm.
so that kind of debt, That's how you can build wealth extremely fast. It's
Mm-hmm.
super important, though, that you do it with financial education because just as fast as it can build wealth, it can knock you out of the game. So, again, you have to understand how to use debt effectively, and you have to understand how to counterbalance the debt with liquidity and reserves. If you can balance out that debt barbell to where you have debt and reserves, you're playing a game that is going to, that's why financial freedom in 10 years or less is possible, is because of leverage.
Yeah. Um, people are scared of that, and we are taught since the young age, basically. Especially, it's like I think it's more in Europe than in US, but
Mm.
like I don't have any debt. Like literally zero. I don't even own credit card. And that's how we've been raised, how we've been taught
Hmm.
since the beginning. And also like because I moved from my country where I've been basically born, I moved to England, so it's even harder for me to get pretty much credit card because of we are it's there are some complications when it comes to like being from different country and like living here because we are not really citizens after the Brexit and so on. So there are like things that we have to like actually uh, have to be able to have it to get it. But why, like, do you think that there is a reason why we are taught that way, that we shouldn't use that and so on?
Yeah, it goes back to the system, right? The system is meant to trap you. It's like the system isn't meant to set you free, right? No one wants you to be financially free. You have to want it for yourself because if you don't want to be financially free, then you become dependent on your job, taxes, the government, Wall Street. You become dependent on all of that stuff. And
Mhm.
if things get too tight, right, and you're too, frustrated with your life, then the banks just step in and say, "Hey, it's really easy. Go buy something on credit. No big deal. Don't worry about paying the full thing off." And then that just further entraps you, right? And so
Yeah.
that system, that game is meant to entrap you. And so, Adam, I love the fact that you don't have any credit card debt.
Uh-huh.
Anyone listening to this podcast, that's step number one. Get rid of your, like, you can use, I use credit cards for almost everything because I get the points and the mileage and all that stuff, but I never carry a balance, ever carry a balance.
Mhm.
That's bad
Mhm.
debt because on that debt, I have to trade my future time to pay off that debt. So that's the two different sides of debt. That's bad debt. Good debt is using other people's money to buy an asset that someone else pays off for you. That's
Yep.
good debt.
Yep. 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 So let's talk about like what would be your advice to somebody who has probably some type of money on their bank account or coming monthly or like basically based on their income stream. What would be your advice to them, um, what they should invest into? Like start investing if they do not have any investment portfolios yet.
Yeah, education first, but by far. That's what money is today, Adam. Like,
Yep. Yep.
if you're not educated, you're dependent. If you're not educated, you will lose.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to lose to people who do understand the game of money.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't understand the game of money, you're just speculating. You're just handing your money off, crossing your fingers, hoping that it works out.
Uh-huh.
So, those three books that I gave you, if you read those three books, that's step number one. And dude, that's all you should do is get financially educated first. Because once you get educated, you see the game of money completely different. You
Mm-hmm.
stop asking, who can I take financial advice from? And you start asking yourself, what assets can I go acquire? How can I
Mm-hmm.
ensure that I'm building cash flow instead of net worth? And so, education is the key. It is
Mm-hmm.
the key, and you have to take it for yourself.
Yep. Yep. That makes sense. Yeah, totally. So now when you see people like there is why they even start, if I don't know if you have if you have this informations or what is the reason why they started charging even young people to study, for basically for studying? What is the
Okay.
reason behind it? And like Yeah.
They want to trap you. The younger they can trap you, the longer you're trapped in a system. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. It's the most disgusting, nefarious, debilitating thing that we're doing to our young kids today. That we send them to a school, we give them a degree that they probably don't need, we train them on things that don't have any value in the real world. Now, I'm being broad and general here, so there are good degrees, there are good education, but in general, we send our kids to school and they walk away with a mountain of debts. That mountain of debt now entraps them. It enslaves them in the modern day financial enslavement, where now they have to go get a job where they're going to start paying taxes just to pay off that debt. But now they need to start covering the cost of living because they've maxed out their debt on their credit for education. And so this is where most people live. They live just barely making it because they're carrying the weight of debt with them. So guys, I can't even tell you how frustrating. Like, I understand it. I'm sending my own kids into the world right now. My own kids are growing up, but I've given them a different financial education. They will never go into debt for school ever, because I truly believe, the fastest way for you to become financially free is understand the game of money first. And then once you understand the game of money, all you're going to use money for, you're going to use money as a tool to build and live a life that matters. Rather than being dependent on a job, you become independent to say, what do I want to do with my time? How can I make decisions that aren't primarily 100% driven by money? That changes the entire game for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I escaped that. I haven't, like, I finished my high school, but like it was after second attempt actually. That's
Mm,
yeah. So, but I have never went to yeah to college. So
got
I've
it.
been like, this is not what uni. Sorry, uni. So I haven't really go to that way. And like in for example our country, we don't even have this yet, so that you have to pay for education,
Mm,
right? But I know that because we live in UK, and I know I have lots of friends from US that actually experience that, so it's like really interesting. um and It's just I heard it's not really a small amount that you have to pay when it comes to that. Like when it comes to student loans, that they really, like, literally, it's even over $60,000 or something. I don't know. I have no idea exactly the numbers there, but I also, like, when I've read some books that was like that, um, they didn't know, like, the Wall Street and the whole system didn't know how to screw the older one, so they started charging him because, like, basically how the whole thing's happening, like how the money works, is like that the bank basically prints money all the time, right? And when there is some problem or something happening in the economy, they, instead of fixing it, they start printing more and more money because the money still keep flowing, and this is how the whole problem is solved basically. But for example, when people are investing into, like, those type of 401k, or like the retirement investments, this is literally first column, I would say,
mm.
of the Wall Street asset column, basically, for in asset column, basically,
Yeah,
that
totally.
they use the money from people who invest into those retirements and so on. Literally, like, they use those money to push them into the markets, basically, and so on.
It's disgusting. I
Right.
100% agree with everything you're saying, Adam. I mean, it is a system of entrapment. It is a system
Yeah.
where you have to be willing to raise your financial intelligence, to walk away from the Wall Street dependency game and take ownership. And if you're unwilling to do that, you're going to get the outcome that everyone in that world is getting. And the best you can expect is average. That's all. That system is built for average people who are comfortable with average results. And average results aren't working out very well. So if you want something more with your life, you have to step up and you have to take ownership of your life, of your
Mhm.
time, of your decisions, and especially of your money. That's the foundation.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much. That was really interesting conversation, and I really loved every minute of it. Um, so now, well, where people can find you to seek advices or like even to purchase your book? Do you have a website where they can go?
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. It's available on Amazon, so it's retirein10years.com, or it's available on Amazon, or you can go to retirein10years.com/book. And we have, always a way you can just get it right there. So that will give you the opportunity to get the book. We have, honestly, with this, what I'm most proud about with this book is we attached a free video course and
Ooh.
calculators and trainings to show you how to implement every step of this process. So the book will give you the entire framework of how you can achieve financial freedom in 10 years or less by doing things completely different than what you've been trained, taught, and educated to do. So yeah, Amazon, or just go to retirein10years.com, and it's the number 10/book.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye, everybody.
Heck yeah, Adam. Thank you.